What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this. Beautiful, delicious, smoky, spicy, juicy, amazing smoked Italian beef sandwich. That's right, folks, we're making our own Italian beefs with homemade bread, homemade jardinera, with a little kiss of smoke. Coming up. This is some meat. Pat it dry. And what I got here is a top round roast. Picked this up from my friends over at Porter Road. And typically with Italian beef, you're gonna see a lot of leaner cuts from the back end of the animal. You know, bottom round is really common, top round, eye round would probably work, but really we're just trying to make some roast beef. So any cut you got will probably work out pretty well for this. I like the top round, the grain's going in the right direction to get some good slices. I was kind of hoping it would come with a fat cap, but it'll still work out just fine. But the first thing I'm gonna do to this is hit it with some salt, just some kosher salt, nice even covering all the way around. No need to trim this, it's already very nicely trimmed up, and we're gonna get all sides, folks, you know the drill. And I suppose you could truss this if you wanted to, help it keep its shape a little bit, but we're gonna be slicing this super thin at the end of the day, so I don't think it's really necessary. But it's a big piece of meat, salt's not gonna penetrate all the way through, so nice healthy amount. Beautiful. Now I'm gonna set this aside while we get the rest of our rub made up, which includes some fennel, some oregano, some dry parsley, some basil, some granulated garlic, granulated onion, some black pepper, some red chili flakes, some coriander, and some thyme. And just get that all nice and mixed up. And now that that salt has sat on the meat for a little bit, you can see it's starting to draw out some moisture, making it nice and tacky, so we can go on with the rest of our rub. And I'm gonna be pretty generous because it's a lot of good flavor, and also we already salted the meat, so we can go on heavy with this without worrying about over salting the beef. Don't forget the sides, come on. And that is looking pretty much perfect to me. But before we go ahead and fire up the pit, we gotta get one of the most crucial parts of our Italian beef made, which is the jus. Starting by going in with some homemade smoky beef stock. And because this is a homemade beef stock, it's full of gelatin, so it'll be really thick and velvety. And I don't want it to be too velvety because then it just won't have the right texture. So I'm also gonna go in with a quart of water. But water isn't very flavorful. I'm not sure if you knew that. And the original plan was to use half of my beef stock and half of some store-bought, but I forgot to buy some. So I'm just gonna add some water and some of this bouillon paste and get that dissolved. That way we have some really nice beefy flavor. It's already a little bit smoky, slightly gelatinous, and full of beef flavor. If I was in the UK, I definitely would add some bouillon. I'm actually gonna add 2 quarts of water with the bouillon, followed by a handful of some garlic, a couple of bay leaves, as well as some of the seasoning that we just made. Good amount. And get that all mixed together, and we're gonna give it a taste for salt. It's actually pretty salty already from all that bouillon, but going with a pinch now just to be safe. But we can always taste this at the end as well. Now, typically with an Italian beef, you'll just put the meat in the jus, pop it in the oven, and cook it till the meat comes up to temp, thus fortifying the water and other spice they put in there. But because this is a barbecue channel, I wanna get a little smoke on my Italian beef, so I have to set the grill up a little bit differently than normal. But let's go ahead and fire up the pit. So basically the game plan here is to take a bit of an over-the-top chili approach here, where I got the grill basket in to hold the jus, then I can put the grate on top of it, then I can put my meat right here. That way, the meat will cook, the jus will get nice and hot and reduce a little bit, also get some smoke flavor on the meat and the jus, and anything that drips out of the meat will go into this, fortifying it, making it even more tasty. But as far as barbecue Italian beefs go, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm gonna rock this pit right around 300 degrees for a couple hours, but because we're not gonna get any direct heat flavor, because there's no fat or drippings going onto the coals, I'm also gonna start chunking in some pieces of post oak. How cute. To get some good smoke into the broth and into the meat. So we'll check back in on this in a little bit. This video is brought to you by Ridge. Father's Day is right around the corner, folks, and finding a gift for dad has never been easier, with Ridge Wallet doing one of their biggest sales of the year. For a limited time, you can get up to 40% off website-wide on all your favorite Ridge items for yourself or the father in your life. And personally, I've been using Ridge for the last several years at this point, and I absolutely love everything about it. They're so slim, lightweight, RFID protection from digital pickpockets, holds up to 12 cards, and a lot of them come with this little money sleeve on the back where you can just kind of tuck your bills under there. But my favorite ones are the ones with this money clip on the back. I use it as a pocket clip because I don't like having my pockets way too much, so I really like to clip things into my waistband. And it's super lightweight, keeps my pockets free, I barely notice it, and I've never once lost a wallet in like 4 years. And both of these over the years look brand new. But that's because Ridge wallets are made with really high quality materials, and they come in a variety of colors too. Aren't they pretty? Another one of my favorite items is their key clip. This thing is awesome. Again, real strong pocket clip on the back, holds all the keys you need, kind of works like a pocket knife where you just flip these out, and you're good to go. No more rattling keys. Again, keeping my pockets it's lightweight, and it's made of the same high quality materials. And of course, they come in a variety of colors as well. They also make this pocket clip that goes on the back that holds an air tag so you can find it wherever you lose it. And their latest addition is the MagSafe wallet. If you're trying to go real minimalist, you can just pull out your phone, pop it to the back, and there you go. Such a small package. You can easily detach it if you need to grab it and use it really quick, but you don't have to worry about things getting all twisted up in your pocket. So if you're interested in picking up some Ridge products for yourself or for your father this Father's Day, head over to ridge.com, where using my link you can save up to 40% on your order. Again, that's ridge.com, link in the description, saving you up to 40% off. Thank you, Ridge. Next up, let's get our bread started for these Italian beef sandwiches. So I'm going into the stand mixer with some warm water, our yeast, and our sugar. At this point, you could wait for this to bloom to see if your yeast is alive, but I'm gonna live dangerously today by going in with some olive oil, our bread flour, some dough conditioner, and some kosher salt. Pretty simple recipe. Really what we're aiming for here is something that's really chewy and sturdy that can hold up to the sop at the end of the day, but I also want it to be nice and light and fluffy at the same time. So now we're gonna need this for about 5 to 10 minutes. And just like that, a nice, smooth, supple dough ball has been formed. And I gotta say, it's looking real good. Beautiful dough, a little bit sticky. Might have to put some flour on this. Just give it a few more kneads, make it into a nice taut ball. But all in all, a very beautiful, simple dough. So now into a grease bowl we go. Cover this in plastic and let it rise for an hour to an hour and 1/2. After about an hour and a half, you can see we got some really nice puffage. Ooh, beep. Punch it down. Ooh, a lot of fermentation. And out it comes. Just trying to degas this a little bit. Put down a little flour because it's still kind of sticky. And now I'm going to divide this into 4 equal pieces. And once portioned out, upside down they go. I'm gonna push these out a little bit. And they got a lot of big air bubbles in there. And I want a pretty tight crumb on this bread. So I'm gonna roll them out with a rolling pin real quick, just to squeeze out all the air. And then I'm gonna do my best to roll these up. Although this dough is really sticky, and I don't think it's supposed to be, so I might have messed up the hydration when I was weighing everything out. But we'll see how these come out. But they're looking like ass right about now. But on the other side, I'm just gonna pinch together all the seams, flip it over, and just try and roll it into a nice smooth shape. And I'm glad I made 4 of these because this one does not look very good. And once all pressed out, onto a baking sheet we go. Flatten this out a little bit, try and make it nice and even thickness all the way across. And we're just gonna hope for the best, folks. I'm not gonna roll it out this time with the rolling pin, we're just gonna go for it because that's where trouble happened last time. I always have problems with loaves of bread like this. That's why I like making burger buns better. Trying to get a nice shape is really tough. Flip it over, pinch the seam, and roll it into a log. So now I got these all rolled out, so I'm gonna wrap these in plastic and let them rise again for about an hour. And after about an hour, these are looking nicely proofed. So I'm gonna take a razor blade and give them a nice score down the middle. Ooh. And now into a 375-degree oven. And 30 minutes later, out of the oven these come, and I gotta say, they look pretty good. Definitely puffed up a lot in the oven, but now I'm gonna set these aside and let them cool down for a bit. We are about 4.5 hours into this cook, and I gotta say, this thing is looking pretty good. Nice amount of bark on there, good amount of smoke. You can see some juices that are leaking out where I was probing it to get an internal temp, which is all dripped down and gone right into our jus. So I think the plan is working perfectly. Rocking an internal temp of about 145 degrees, so I'm gonna pull it off. And I've been debating all day what internal temp I should take that thing to, because at the end of the day, it's gonna be sliced super thin and held in a really hot jus, so it's pretty much all gonna be well done anyway. So there's really no sense in cooking it just to a medium rare. But at the same time, I don't wanna cook it too far, because then it might get a little shreddy when I put it on the meat slicer. So I don't wanna cook it to like 203 or something like that. So I kinda shot for somewhere in the middle, right around a medium well, and I think that should work out just fine. So now, I'm gonna wrap it up. Beautiful. So now I'm gonna pop this into the fridge overnight to get nice and cold, chill it down so it slices a lot easier tomorrow. And also, the overnight chill will let all those smoke flavors penetrate deeper into the meat. And as for our jus here, I'm gonna send that through a strainer just to take out the bay leaves, the garlic, any big chunks of herbs and things that are in there, because I want this to be nice and clean. You can tell this cooked down because that garlic is super soft. And now into the fridge we go with this as well. So at this point, our meat is done. We just need to chill it down before we slice it. Our bread is done, and I made it today instead of tomorrow because I want to wrap it up overnight to get it even softer. The jus is done, so the only thing we need to talk about now is the jardinera, which luckily I knocked out a couple days ago. Today we're making jardinera, which is a quintessential part of any Italian beef sandwich. And it really is what separates the Italian beef from pretty much every other roast beef sandwich on the market. And if you're unfamiliar with jardinera, it's essentially pickled vegetables, and it can be made of whatever you want. I'm going pretty classic with some cauliflower, some carrots. These are actually baby carrots, and I use these because they're already clean, so I didn't have to peel anything, and they're already the right size, meaning I didn't have to peel a carrot and then dice it. Pro tip right there. Also got some celery, some serranos, and jardinera is pretty spicy, but I don't want to make it too spicy, so I took the seeds out of most of them, but I definitely left several of them whole, which should bring a good amount of kick without burning me out too badly. And then on the end, I got some green bell and some red bell peppers. And ratios here, I'm just kind of winging it. Mostly cauliflower, and then equal parts carrot, celery, and serrano, and then about half that of the 2 bell peppers. And we are going to add some other ingredients, but first we need to get these in a brine. So first things first, we need to put these in a container, but I'm gonna weigh this container. And I should mention, I went through a lot of jardinera recipes on the internet and everywhere I could find, and there's a lot of ways to go about it. Turns out, you can do it really quick, you can do a hot pickle, you can do a lacto ferment, but the one I'm going with is from my buddy Adam Witt, aka Omnivorous Adam, and I actually made smoked Italian beef with him on his channel, so be sure to go check that out if you haven't before. And I like his process because it's pretty involved, it takes a while, and it looks the most authentic. And whenever I make something for the first time, I want to do it right the first time and then maybe try and shorten it or try a cheater method down the road. But Adam, thanks for the recipe. So first things first, I've got this container on a scale and we're gonna weigh out all the veg. Boop. And get that all mixed up. I also just remember that this thing is full of serranos, and I need to remember to go wash my hands really well before I pee next time. And I should mention, you can make this as chunky or as fine as you like. I went for a pretty fine, maybe medium chunk, because I don't want to have a giant chunk of carrot on my sandwich. But now we're gonna cover this with water. Beautiful. And now we're going to take this number, which is for me 2,843 grams, and we're going to multiply that by 0.08, and that's how much salt we're going to add, which is a lot. Beautiful. And now we're just going to mix that up until everything is dissolved. I love jardinera, by the way. If you haven't ever had it, you can easily pick some up at the store or online. It's in the pickle section. And it's a really tasty condiment. Highly recommend it. And now I'm going to pop a lid on this, stick it in the fridge or on the countertop, and let these brine in this salty brine overnight. One overnight brine later. I threw some paper towels on top to make sure all the tops of these veg were in fact submerged, but I'm gonna wring that out. And these are looking pretty good. Not too much different. Smells good though. But again, this step is just to season the vegetables. So now what I'm gonna do is pour out all the liquid from this bad boy. And I'm doing this on a scale to weigh out the weight of the brine, because we know that's the exact amount of brine we need to cover these veg. But we don't wanna still use this brine because it's really salty. So now I'm gonna take the weight of this brine and do half vinegar and half water, which for me it's 16-16. Which makes life easy. So I got 808 grams of water and the same amount of white vinegar. And bring that up to a simmer. Whew! Once up to a simmer, we're gonna go in with the rest of our ingredients, including some garlic, some dry oregano, some dry thyme, some red chili flakes, and a couple of bay leaves. But I'm gonna bring this back up to a simmer and let it simmer away for a few minutes to make sure all these flavors are infused. And then over the veg we go. Oh yeah, always good to be outside when you're boiling vinegar. Now what we need to do is let this cool down to room temp, pop it in the fridge, and let it sit there from anywhere from overnight to up to a few days. This is one of those things where the longer it sits, the more flavorful it'll be. So I'll see y'all in a few days. 4 days later. It's time to strain these out, so I'm gonna take these off and I'm gonna go drain all this liquid out into the sink. And just like that, after all of our hard work, what we're left with is some nicely seasoned, slightly softened, nice and tangy pickled vegetables. Dude, oh, that is perfect. But we're gonna go in with one final ingredient, and that is some green olives. And that's because my favorite jardinera from Chicago is made by JP Graziano, and he's got a lot of olives in his, and I love the saltiness and the brininess and the flavor of them. But of course, you can leave them out if you don't like olives. So in we go, as much as you see fit. And I know this seems like a lot of work, but it has been almost 100% passive work, except for the veggie chopping, which I suppose you could probably do in a food processor if you wanted to. I cannot overexpress how tasty this stuff is. I've just been nibbling on it while I mix it. The olives had a really nice flavor to it too, and I also picked out the bay leaves whenever I find them. So now all we're gonna do is put it in a jar, which is why it's called jardinera. Not really. And I don't have any jars, so I'm gonna just go into these quart containers for some quartinera. And I'm really glad I made a lot. And now all that's left is to cover these in oil. And my gut tells me to use olive oil just because it's got really good flavor. It seems like it would fit really well with all these other flavors. But we gotta store this in the fridge, and olive oil and avocado oil and a lot of oils tend to solidify when cold. But I was at the grocery store earlier and I was looking at all the bottles of jardinera they had on the shelf, and all of them used vegetable oil. So that's what we're gonna go with today. You could use olive oil, but then you'd have to take it out of the fridge a couple hours before you want to use it or try and nuke it or something. So I think this will just make life a little bit easier. Beep. And we've already got olives in there, so that'll give us the olive flavor. And just like that, we've now got homemade jardinera. Pop this in the fridge and it'll last for a really long time. And the longer it sits, the more that oil will become infused with all the flavors in there. Very excited about this. All right, y'all, meat is out of the fridge. I actually popped in the freezer for like 20 minutes just to get it extra firm, and it's finally time to get this stuff sliced up. And I gotta say, it's looking pretty good. Still looks like a meatloaf, but on to the meat slicer we go for some nice thin shavings. A little thinner than that. Looking pretty good. Got a good smoke ring on there, nice and thin. Let's see if we can go even thinner. That's pretty thin, but it's just shaving it, so we'll bump it back up. I'm on a 2, if that means anything to you. And looking pretty good. Looks like some good smoky roast beef to me. Let's get a little sneak peek. Oh, that is phenomenal. Very nicely seasoned, good amount of smoke flavor, really tender, obviously, because it's super thin. Got a decent amount of fat running through there too, which is exciting, and it just kind of pulls apart. Love it. And just like that, all sliced up. And I gotta say, this is some of the best roast beef I've made, and if you're gonna do anything, I highly recommend this, whether you're trying to make Italian beef sandwiches or not, because this stuff is real good. The flavor from that rub comes through a lot. Tasty stuff. All right, y'all, we've got our beef, we've got our jardinera, we've got our bread. I've got the jus on the burner here heating up, so I think it's finally time to assemble an Italian beef sandwich. Making these the day before was the correct move. I mean, just look at this thing. It looks just like a Serrano roll, and it softened up drastically overnight, just being in that plastic. It looks very good. The first thing I'm gonna do is snip the tips off, kind of like a Cubano loaf, but we got a beautiful crumb on that. Worked out well. And this will be 2 beautiful, pretty big Italian beef sandwiches. But first, I'm gonna slice this in half, but not all the way in half. And don't you want to just fill that with meat? Come on! And after taking a bite of that end, it's got a lot of tug to it, very sturdy, a lot of gluten, but it's also still very soft. Definitely making these again. So now we've got our jus heated up, and I'm just gonna grab a bunch of this beautiful beef and just drop it right in there, heat this through, and make sure everything is fully saturated. Also, I didn't bring this up to a boil. It's sitting right around 150 degrees, just enough to make sure the meat is nice and warm, but nothing's too hot and gonna burn me with boiling jus. But that's looking pretty good. To assemble, we're gonna start out by grabbing a healthy portion of our beautiful smoky roast beef. Pile it in there nice and tall. Don't be afraid to get any extra juices in there. Looking pretty good to me. Then get our beautiful jardinera, oil and all, and just do a nice healthy amount of our jardinera all over the top. And then in true Italian beef fashion, we're gonna do a little dip, and a little dip. And you can make this as wet as you like. And then bust out some parchment paper, plop it down, make sure it's not all falling apart. And we're just gonna roll it up. And there it is. What a beautiful package. And you know I'm making more than one. Oh yeah, beautiful. Pile it high. Lots of jardinera. And also, in Chicago, if you want to get sweet peppers, you can make some of these. These are just some green and red bell peppers that I simply popped under the broiler for a little bit, but you can do whatever you like. Beautiful. But without further ado, oh, there it is. Finally, the Chuds BBQ version of the Chicago Italian beef sandwich. And I gotta say, that looks really good. I'm ready to dive in. And there it is, folks, all done up. This sandwich took days to make, but I think it's all gonna be worth it. There's nothing else to say. Oh, that is so good. It's so beefy. The bread is perfect. The jardinera, I mean, jardinera is one of my favorite things in the world anyway. It's got that pickly vinegar tang to it, a little bit of kick, and that olive note is just beautiful. I'm going for another little dip over here. I didn't make mine very wet, but as you can see, fully saturated bread, still holding together. Oh my God. Oh, I need some more jardinera. Oh, that jus is incredible. So beefy. Dude. Oh, that's already worth all the work that went into it. Dip. I know I say it a lot, but I've been wanting to make this one for a long time, but I just knew it was gonna be a real bear of a video to shoot with all the bread making and the 3-day process for the jardinera and smoking that beef, chilling it, slicing it, but wow, it really paid off. Oh, that soggy bread. I know soggy bread doesn't sound that appetizing, but if you know this sandwich, you know what I'm talking about. All that meat, smoky goodness, but definitely not overpowering. Very welcome addition to the Italian beef. Oops. Ow. I'm introducing a new segment to this channel called Bell of Approval, where something really needs to be top 10 to get the bell. And this one, worth it. That was so good. Ow. My mom got me that bell. I wish she was here right now, because she would probably love this sandwich too. This is one of those sandwiches that I really think is worth putting the effort in, because you could go to the store and get some roast beef from the deli counter, you could get a jus packet, you could stick it in a hoagie roll, but it's really not gonna come anywhere close to something like that. That is truly a phenomenal bite of food. Just cut into number 2, the big boy. And it's a great way to eat your vegetables, kids. Go for the big boy.
Yeah.
Come on, that looks like an Italian beef to me, folks.
Oh God.
Ooh. Come on, so meaty.
So good. Okay, so an Italian beef doesn't, I guess, have cheese on it. I don't know why I thought there was cheese on it.
Yeah, kicked out of Chicago for saying something like that. Want some ketchup too?
This is so good.
Oh.
The jardinera gives like a good little bite to it.
I like that recipe a lot.
Yeah, what's in, is this cauli?
It's all the vegetables from our garden, and by that I mean HEB. Now usually jardinera is a little spicier than this. This one's pretty mild, which I'm okay with, but
Yeah, I mean, I could always, you know, I love a spice.
it's just such a good sandwich.
Yeah, good job on the bun, babe.
Thank you. This is the first time in a video in a long time that I'm just gonna eat an alarming amount.
Yeah. And there's not like a lot of smokiness to it, which is good.
It's there, but it's definitely not this like the star of the show. I wouldn't call it a barbecue sandwich.
No.
But it's enough to make the cut for a barbecue channel, I'll tell you that much.
It adds to the layers of flavor.
It's all about them layers of flavor. Oh, I like it.
Me too. Mine's starting to fall apart.
Yeah, this one sat for a little longer. I'm glad I finally did this, you know. I've been putting it off for years. Since,
You've been talking about it for so long, I thought you did it.
Nope. I just knew it was going to be days worth of work, which it was. Now that I'm at the finish line, pretty happy about it.
Worth it.
So, good! And with this very last bite of Italian beef, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely incredible smoky Italian beef sandwich. I highly recommend giving this one a try. I know it's a lot of steps, but really nothing about this sandwich was too hard. And the Italian beef truly is one of my favorite sandwiches, if not my favorite. It's just so damn tasty. And this one definitely holds its own against some of the ones I've had in Chicago. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!